Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be butchering a chicken. This is the method that you will be using for competition in Skills USA. It is a typical 8-way chicken fabrication that you would use typically for dividing a chicken into its parts for things like frying or roasting or grilling. It'll leave in the bones, but it is going to be separated from its main whole chicken state to its integral parts. So what you need for this project today, you're going to need a tray for your end product. You're going to need a chef's knife. You're going to need a semi-flexible boning knife, a cutting board set up with a mat or a wet towel underneath to keep it from sliding all over the place, some dry side towels. You're going to need a bin for your usable scraps and trim that we will use to make stock out of the bones, and then garbage. You'll also need a pan full of ice over top of another pan that's holding your chicken. The reason we do this is to keep the chicken cold during this fabrication process. Notice that I'm only pulling one chicken out at a time from the refrigerator. If I pull more than that, I have a tendency to work too slowly and the chicken sits in what we call the temperature danger zone for too long of a time. So the first thing that we need to do when we're ready to start this process is make sure we have our chicken. It is completely thawed out and we want to dry it. So I'm going to lay the chicken on my cutting board and I'm going to pat it dry. The reason we dry this is because if not, it has a tendency to be wet and will slide around on you while you are trying to do your work with this chicken. So the next thing we want to talk about is the anatomy of this chicken. As you look at your chicken, you have the breast side, the wings, which are up towards the front, the legs, the thighs, and if I turn this around, the backbone and the tail. And the chicken has already been gutted and eviscerated, and it is in fairly good shape and ready to go for what we're going to do. So to start this process, I have the chicken laying on the cutting board with the open side, feather side facing me. The legs are pointing towards me. The wings are facing up. And the first thing that I want to do is I want to remove the tips of the wings. The wings are in 3 joints. I want to remove the last joint, find it where it bends, and slice right through using your boning knife. Turn the chicken around, do the same thing on the other side. Now I'm going to find my chicken, the separation between the body and the knees of the chicken. And I'm going to, using a reverse pinching motion, open this section of that chicken and slice through the skin only. Using that reverse pinching motion, I'm going to continue cutting the skin all the way to the tail feather and all the way to the backbone. I'm going to open that up and do the same thing on the other side. Turning it around so I'm not working across myself. Opening to the tail and cutting to the backbone. Now I have my chicken laid open, the hips, the thighs, the legs. I want to first remove each of the legs from the cavity. So I'm going to find the bone socket for the hip with my fingers and fold it open like you would a book. And it pops that right out of joint. Lay it on its side, cutting from the tail end with my knife laying against the cavity of the chicken. I'm going to cut until I reach the joint. Once I reach the joint, I'm going to turn my knife down and pin the chicken carcass against the cutting board. And with an overhand grip, I'm going to pull the chicken away from the thigh, away from the body. That removes this piece of meat, which is called the oyster. That oyster is the most tender and flavorful piece of meat on the chicken. So we definitely don't want to leave it behind. Your judges will be looking for that. Then you want to remove the rest of the skin, set the leg and thigh portion to the side, turn your chicken around, lay it on its side on the other way, and do the same thing. Find the bone, open it like a book, cutting from the tail till I find that joint, turn the blade down, pin it against the board, and pull. When I pull, that pulls that oyster away from the body. You should have a clean hip bone right there exposed. Cut the skin the rest of the way, lay it aside. That leaves me with the breasts and the wings. The next thing that I want to do is cut through the skin, the flappy portion of skin, to expose the backbone and the rib cage on the inside. Setting it on its shoulders with its backbone towards you, you can visualize where you're going to be cutting. Using the tip of your knife, making sure you don't go in deep enough to cut the meat itself, you're going to make one quick jerking motion to cut through those small rib bones. That opens that up. You're going to turn it and do the same thing on the other side, and then that whole backbone comes right out. This is reserved for stock. And then I have my breast and wings that I'm going to separate for two different portions. When you look at this, there is a piece of flexible cartilage right here attached to a keel bone. To remove and separate this chicken, you want to cut through a piece of cartilage and just score using the tip of your knife down that cartilage. Once you've done that, again, opening like a book, popping it open, taking your thumb and running it along the skin and the cartilage, then do the same thing on the opposite side, and this keel bone and cartilage will peel right out. This will also be saved for stock. And then I want to take my chef's knife and cut straight through that chicken. I now have a breast and a wing. I'm going to remove the wing by locating the joint on the underside and cutting just through that. Now I have my chicken wings and I have my chicken breast. And if you've done this correctly, you'll have nice skin coverage and very little fat or bone left on this chicken. I'm going to do the same thing on the other chicken. Again, locate the joint from the wing using the tip of your knife. Cut in a circular motion around, remove and set it aside. Trim off any excess fat. The fat is scrap. And then you have your breast. Now, I'm going to take my legs and thighs, lay them skin side down, and I'm going to peel back the skin. When you look, there is a natural separation between the meat. If you find that magical separation line and you feel just to the leg side of that, you can feel where the joint is. And you can slice right through without hitting any bone. Then I have my thigh, and I have my leg. And do the same thing with the others. Find that line, cut just to the leg side of that line. I have my leg, I have my thigh, I have my breast, I have my wings, and I have 8 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. These could then be used for grilling, roasting, barbecues. They could be brined and then fried as fried chicken. This is a basic 8-way chicken fabrication.